I won the lottery, but my family's greed and betrayal were unbelievable. The shocking story behind my jackpot. It was just an ordinary Tuesday. I was sitting on my couch after a long day at work, scrolling through my phone, when I decided to check the lottery ticket I'd bought on a whim earlier that week. I wasn't a regular player. I'd only bought the ticket because the jackpot had reached $10 million, and I thought, why not? I grabbed the ticket from my purse and pulled up the winning numbers on my phone. One by one, I matched the numbers. My heart started racing. No way. This can't be real. I double-checked, then triple-checked. Every single number matched. I was holding a $10 million winning ticket. I screamed so loud that my neighbor banged on the wall, yelling, "Keep it down!" But I didn't care. I was shaking, laughing, and crying all at once. I called my best friend, Sarah, first. She didn't believe me at first. She thought I was pranking her. But when I sent her a photo of the ticket, she screamed even louder than I did. "You're a millionaire now. What are you going to do?" I didn't know. My mind was spinning. I'd always dreamed of financial freedom, but I never actually thought it would happen. I decided to call my family next. My mom picked up the phone and I blurted out, "Mom, I won the lottery. $10 million." There was a long pause and then she started crying. "Oh my God, honey, this is amazing. Your father and I are so proud of you." She handed the phone to my dad, who was equally stunned. "I always knew you were destined for great things," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. Next, I called my siblings. My older brother, Mike, was the first to answer. "No way, you're kidding, right?" he said, laughing. But when I assured him it was real, he shouted, "That's my sister. I knew you were lucky." My younger sister, Emily, was more reserved. "Wow, that's incredible," she said, but I could hear the hesitation in her voice. "Are you sure it's real?" By the end of the night, the entire family knew. My phone was blowing up with texts and calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, aunts, uncles. Everyone wanted to congratulate me. It felt surreal, like I was living in a dream. The next few days were a whirlwind. I hired a lawyer and a financial advisor to help me navigate the process of claiming the prize. They advised me to stay anonymous, but I was too excited to keep it a secret. I wanted to share my joy with the people I loved. When the news officially broke, my life changed overnight. Suddenly, I was the lottery winner in my small town. Strangers approached me at the grocery store asking for loans or investment opportunities. Old friends from high school reached out, inviting me to coffee or dinner. It was overwhelming, but I tried to stay grounded. The first thing I did was pay off my student loans and credit card debt. It felt incredible to see those balances drop to zero. Then I bought myself a new car. Nothing too flashy, just a reliable SUV I'd had my eye on for years. I even treated myself to a weekend getaway at a luxury resort, something I'd never been able to afford before. But the best part was being able to help my family. I gave my parents $100,000 to pay off their mortgage and renovate their home. I paid off my brother's car loan and helped my sister with her medical bills. It felt amazing to be in a position to make their lives easier. At first, everything seemed perfect. My family was over the moon, and I felt like I was living a fairy tale. But as the weeks went by, I started noticing subtle changes in their behavior. My brother Mike began dropping hints about wanting to start his own business. "You know, with a little investment, I could really make something of myself," he said one day over dinner. I brushed it off, thinking he was just brainstorming ideas. My sister Emily started making comments about how lucky I was. "I wish I could just win the lottery and solve all my problems," she said with a sigh. I offered to help her with her finances, but she quickly changed the subject. Even my parents began making suggestions. "You should really think about buying a bigger house," my mom said. "You deserve it after all your hard work." At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured they were just excited for me and wanted to share in my good fortune. But then, the requests started getting more frequent and more direct. One day, my cousin called me out of the blue. We hadn't spoken in years, but he acted like we were best friends. "Hey, I heard about your win. That's amazing. Listen, I've got this great business idea, and I just need a little seed money to get it off the ground. I politely declined, but the call left me feeling uneasy. It was the first time I realized that not everyone in my life had my best interests at heart. As the months went by, the pressure from my family grew. My brother started sending me links to expensive cars and luxury watches, saying things like, "Wouldn't this look great in your garage?" My sister began asking for larger sums of money, claiming she needed it for emergencies. I tried to set boundaries, but it only made things worse. Arguments erupted, and I found myself constantly defending my decisions. "It's my money," I'd say, but they'd counter with, "We're family. You're supposed to help us." The final straw came when I discovered that my brother had been telling people I'd promised to fund his business, even though I'd never agreed to anything. When I confronted him, he shrugged it off. "I thought you'd want to help me," he said. "I mean, you've got more than enough to spare." That's when I realized that winning the lottery wasn't just a blessing. It was also a curse. The money had brought out the worst in the people I loved most, and I didn't know how to fix it. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would test my trust and reshape my life forever. After the initial excitement of winning the lottery wore off, I started to notice a shift in the way my family treated me. At first, it was subtle. Little comments here and there, like my brother Mike joking, "You're rich now, so dinner's on you." Or my sister Emily sighing, "Must be nice to not have to worry about money." I laughed it off, thinking they were just teasing. But soon the jokes turned into expectations, and the expectations turned into demands. It all came to a head during a family dinner at my parents' house. I thought it would be a nice, normal evening, just like the ones we used to have before the lottery win. But as soon as I walked through the door, I could feel the tension in the air. My brother was the first to bring up the money. "So sis," he said, leaning back in his chair, "when are you going to share the wealth? I mean, $10 million is a lot for one person. Don't you think it's only fair to split it with your family?" I was stunned. "Split it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Mike, it's my money. I want it. I've already helped everyone out. I paid off your car loan, helped Emily with her medical bills, and gave Mom and Dad enough to pay off their mortgage. What more do you want?" "That's just the thing," Mike said, his tone turning serious. "You've helped, sure, but it's not enough. We're your family. We deserve an equal share." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. An equal share? Mike, this isn't some inheritance we're splitting. I won this money. It's mine. The argument escalated quickly. My parents tried to mediate, but even they seemed to side with Mike. "Honey," my mom said gently, "maybe you should consider helping your brother and sister a little more. They're struggling, and you have more than enough to spare." I felt like I was being ganged up on. "I've already helped them," I protested. "I've given them thousands of dollars. How is that not enough?" "It's not about the money," my dad chimed in. "It's about fairness. Your family. You should want to take care of each other." I left that dinner feeling hurt and betrayed. I thought my family would be happy for me, but instead they were treating me like an ATM. Things only got worse from there. My sister Emily started calling me almost daily with new requests. "I need $5,000 for a down payment on a new apartment," she'd say. Or, "Can you lend me $10,000 to pay off my credit card debt?" Each time I tried to explain that I couldn't just give away my money, but she'd guilt-trip me with comments like, "I guess you don't care about your own sister." Even my extended family got in on the action. Distant cousins I hadn't seen in years started reaching out with sob stories and requests for loans. One cousin claimed she needed money for her son's medical treatment, while another said she was about to lose her house. I wanted to help, but I couldn't keep up with the constant demands. The breaking point came when I discovered that my brother had been plotting behind my back. One evening, I overheard him talking on the phone in the other room. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll get her to sign over a portion of the money. She's too soft to say no." I was furious. I stormed into the room and confronted him. "What are you talking about? Who are you just talking to?" Mike looked caught off guard, but quickly tried to play it off. It's nothing, he said. Just a friend. Don't lie to me, I snapped. I heard what you said. You're trying to manipulate me into giving you money. He didn't deny it. Instead, he doubled down. Look, I'm just trying to secure my future. You've got more money than you'll ever need. What's the harm in sharing a little with your own brother? The betrayal cut deep. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust. My own brother was willing to manipulate me for his own gain. The fallout was immediate. I cut off all financial support to my siblings and told them they needed to figure things out on their own. They didn't take it well. Mike accused me of being selfish, while Emily called me a sellout who had forgotten where I came from. My parents tried to stay neutral, but I could tell they were disappointed in me. You're tearing this family apart, my mom said one day. Is money really more important than your relationships? I felt like I was being gaslit. I wasn't the one tearing the family apart. They were. I had done nothing but try to help, and now I was being painted as the villain. The stress started to take a toll on me. I couldn't sleep. I lost my appetite, and I found myself constantly on edge. I started questioning every decision I made, wondering if I was being too harsh or too generous. One night, I broke down in tears, calling my best friend, Sarah, for support. I can't do this anymore, I sobbed. They're sucking me dry, and I don't know how to make it stop. Sarah listened patiently, then gave me the tough love I needed. You have to set boundaries, she said. It's your money, and you have every right to protect it. If your family can't respect that, then maybe they don't deserve to be in your life. Her words hit hard, but I knew she was right. I couldn't keep letting my family take advantage of me. I had to take control of the situation, even if it meant risking my relationships. The final straw came when I discovered that Mike had been spreading lies about me to other family members. He told them I had promised to fund his business and was now backing out, painting me as the bad guy. I was done. I called a family meeting and laid everything out on the table. I've done everything I can to help you, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. But I can't keep giving and giving while you take and take. This money is mine, and I'm not going to let anyone guilt me into giving it away. The room was silent. My parents looked stunned, while Mike and Emily avoided eye contact. I could see the anger and resentment in their faces, but I didn't care. I had finally stood up for myself, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But as I left that meeting, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The greed and betrayal had already done irreparable damage to my family, and I didn't know if we could ever recover. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. After months of emotional turmoil, I finally reached a breaking point. I couldn't keep living like this. Constantly stressed, constantly second-guessing myself, constantly feeling like I was being pulled in a million directions by people who were supposed to love and support me. I realized that if I didn't take control of my life, the lottery win, the thing that was supposed to be a dream come true, would destroy me. The first step was the hardest. Cutting ties with the toxic people in my family. I didn't make the decision lightly. These were the people I'd grown up with. The people I'd always thought would have my back no matter what. But the truth was, they didn't. They saw me as a means to an end. A walking ATM who existed to fund their dreams and solve their problems. I started with my brother, Mike. After discovering that he'd been plotting to manipulate me into signing over a portion of my winnings, I knew I couldn't trust him anymore. I sent him a text. Cold, maybe, but necessary. I need space from you. What you did was a betrayal, and I can't have that kind of negativity in my life right now. His response was exactly what I expected. Defensive, angry, and full of guilt-tripping. You're really going to throw away our relationship over money? Fine. Enjoy your millions, but don't come crying to me when you realize you've pushed everyone away. It hurt, but I stood my ground. Next was my sister, Emily. I told her the same thing. I needed space. She didn't take it well either. You're being selfish, she said. You've changed, and not for the better. My parents were the hardest. They weren't as overtly greedy as my siblings, but they'd enabled the behavior by always siding with them. When I told them I needed to step back from the family for a while, my mom cried. "You're tearing this family apart," she said. "Is money really worth losing us over?" I had to remind myself that I wasn't the one tearing the family apart. They were. I'd done nothing but try to help, and they'd repaid me with greed, manipulation, and betrayal. With the toxic relationships out of my life, I focused on protecting myself and my winnings. I hired a lawyer to help me set up trusts and legal safeguards to ensure no one could take advantage of me again. I also worked with a financial advisor to create a long-term plan for my money, including investments, charitable donations, and a budget for my own needs. But the emotional scars ran deep. I knew I couldn't just move on without addressing the pain and guilt I felt. That's when I decided to start therapy. My therapist, Dr. Carter, was a godsend. She helped me unpack everything: the betrayal, the guilt, the pressure to be the perfect daughter and sister. She taught me that it wasn't selfish to prioritize my own well-being, and that setting boundaries wasn't a sign of weakness. It was an act of self-respect. "You've been conditioned to believe that your worth is tied to how much you can give to others," she said during one session. "But your value isn't determined by your bank account. You deserve to be happy just as you are." Her words were a revelation. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. As I worked through my emotions, I started to rebuild my life. I surrounded myself with people who truly cared about me. Friends like Sarah, who had been my rock throughout this whole ordeal, and new acquaintances who didn't see me as a lottery winner, but as a person. I also rediscovered my passions. Before the lottery win, I'd been too busy working and worrying about money to pursue the things I loved. Now I had the time and resources to do just that. I took up painting, something I hadn't done since high school, and found it incredibly therapeutic. I also started traveling, visiting places I'd always dreamed of seeing. Not to escape, but to explore and grow. One of the most transformative experiences was volunteering. I'd always wanted to give back, but I'd never had the means. Now I could. I donated to causes I cared about and even started a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. Giving back in a way that felt meaningful helped me reclaim the joy that the lottery win had initially brought me. But the biggest lesson I learned was about trust. I realized that not everyone who claims to love you has your best interests at heart, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you stop trusting altogether. It just means you become more discerning about who you let into your life. I also learned the importance of setting boundaries, even with family. For so long, I'd been taught that family was everything, that you had to sacrifice for them no matter what. But the truth is, family isn't just about blood. It's about mutual respect, love, and support. If those things aren't there, then it's okay to walk away. It's been a year since I won the lottery, and my life looks completely different than I ever imagined it would. I'm not close with my family anymore, and that's still hard sometimes. But I've built a new kind of family, one made up of people who love me for who I am, not what I can give them. The money is still there, of course, but it's no longer the center of my life. It's a tool, a resource that allows me to live the life I want and help others in meaningful ways. And while the journey has been painful, it's also been incredibly empowering. Winning the lottery was supposed to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Instead, it became one of the hardest challenges I've ever faced. But in the end, it taught me invaluable lessons about money, trust, and the importance of setting boundaries. And for that, I'm grateful. Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss more unbelievable real-life stories.